Alright, Noble One, so tonight we're here in a pizzeria.
Pepperoni here is very spicy. Well, somewhat spicy at least. So
Okay, so the pizza was good. And now we're going to talk about Armour, shall we?
yeah.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to say is, you know, Salvo, that you have, I mean, we've been friends for a very long time, so you've basically worn all my Armours.
Oh yes, I have.
Yeah. And he's tried all of them, and for example, the Roman Armour, I think is the one that you've worn the most.
Oh yeah. I had so much fun, especially when we filmed Memories of a Legionary.
Oh yeah, that was a good video.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite actually.
A while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Anyways, so just want to ask you a question. Now, you know how when I wear armour, of course, I've got my own impressions and my own opinions and ideas and everything. And what does it feel for you to wear Roman armour? What do you think?
Well, it felt good. It felt comfortable, and I think that in order to keep it in your body for a long time, you need to be physically prepared, because it's not so heavy, but in the long run it can be very heavy.
Okay, what's the longest you've ever worn armour? In terms of
probably 1 hour or two.
no, not too much. I think more than that.
More than that?
Yeah, definitely. I think you didn't notice, but
Probably.
one of those, for the interactive videos, I think you wore it for at least a couple of hours. So
That's
after
right.
when I remove armour, after a few hours, particularly with Roman armour, one of the problems I have is that my shoulders hurt. Does that happen to you as well?
Yeah, of course, because I'm not trained. I'm not trained to, to wear such a heavy, armor.
Well, there is one thing that, I mean, the Romans did have something to solve that. So I was saying, there is one project that he still doesn't know anything about. So both you noble ones and my friend Salvo will find out this now. But the thing is that the Romans did have a solution for this, for the problem with the shoulders, and it was the subarmalis. So what the subarmalis was, it was similar. Do you remember what the gambeson is?
Yeah, of course.
That's what you wear under plate armor or even under mail armor. And basically the subarmalis was the Roman version of that. Now nobody really knows how the subarmalis was, because of course it being organic, you don't have any archaeological evidence for subarmalis. There is something, but they're not sure whether it actually was a subarmalis or whether it was something else. It's difficult to say. But one thing we know is that Latin writers talked about it, mentioned it, so we know that they wore it. And if you look at the Trajan column, where you see the legionaries is one of the best examples, you do see the subarmalis underneath their armor. You see that there is something that comes out, and then there is the tunic.
Right, so there are some evidences.
There is evidence, yeah, there is evidence. Definitely in iconography, there is evidence. And they talk about it in Latin writers, and they sometimes call it subarmalis, and sometimes it has other names, like thoracomachus, I think it was, something like that. But yeah, that's the idea. Now, some people say it was leather, some people say it was probably linen but covered in leather for waterproof, and others say that it might be other things like cotton, perhaps. It was a garment that you would wear, and it would have a certain thickness for the shoulders.
Right. Okay.
It helps. It pads your shoulders, so it makes it easier to wear armor. The project that I was mentioning is we should make one ourselves.
That would be really, really cool. That would be really fun.
I think we should try and make one. So I will have a look at the measurements. Normally, I have contacted, by the way, noble ones, I've contacted a reenacting society in Rome about Roman armor and everything. And I actually joined them a while ago, so I am officially part of a ancient Roman reenactment group in Rome. I still never met them, but officially I'm part of it. I told them about the channel and everything. They were looking forward to that. If you have armor, you can bring your own armor. And so he's about to buy a lorica segmentata himself, lorica hamata, Roman armor. So
it's gonna be cool, yeah.
So why lorica segmentata and not lorica hamata, the male one?
Well, I don't know. Probably because I wore the one you have, and so I felt really, really good with that one. and I think that would be a great first experience. And then maybe in
For
the
your
future,
first armor, you
yeah,
mean?
for the first
Yeah.
as a first armor, I would prefer that one. Maybe in the future, you know, I would like to experiment different ones.
Different ones, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I will get a Lorica Hamata eventually, the male one, and so you might put it on.
Yeah, so I can try it on
try
and see how I feel with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be cool.
absolutely.
Also, like, one thing I really liked about, like, you know, being a Roman, if I can say that, it was the fact, like, wearing the sandals.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
Caligae.
Yeah, the Caligae.
Yeah. More technically, they're more like boots than sandals, but they do
Yeah,
look like
you're right.
sandals,
Yeah, those are like boots,
Mhm.
and these boots are really comfortable,
Very.
especially in the summertime.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because you can breathe, your feet can breathe, and yeah, I really like that. It's really comfortable when you're marching.
Yeah.
It's really comfortable. You don't, you know, it's not bothering your feet, and I really like that experience. You know?
Yeah, interestingly enough, one of the reasons also they chose those and they preferred open boots, sort of, is because they drain quickly. So if you have to walk over a river or a ford, okay, and then you will get your wet feet, but they drain more quickly because, you know, the air can go through it, and that's one of the reasons why they did that. But if it was winter, one of the things the Romans did when they went to Britannia, and it was freaking cold, you know, and we know something about it. I mean, I lived in England, but you know,
I
when
lived in Scotland.
he lived in Scotland, so it was cold, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, freaking cold.
Scottish weather. So yeah, it gets cold. So it's interesting because we are both. I mean, the Romans are our ancestors, aren't they? And
Yeah,
then we
that's
went
right.
both to Britannia. So it's like you went beyond the wall, you know, Adrian
Yeah,
wall.
that's
I kept.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting. I mean, we both went to Britannia. It's a similar situation if you think about it. We were rather young. We went in our teens. Anyways, what
Also,
they
like
did,
the tunic.
the tunic, yeah,
The tunic
yeah,
was like comfortable and in wool. Like
yeah, the woolen one.
the woolen one is really comfortable and really keeps you like warm.
Definitely.
It really keeps you warm.
Definitely. In fact, you need to choose whether you want a white one or a red one.
Right, because many people think that the Romans were just only wearing like red ones.
Yeah.
But that's not right.
No, in fact, I made a video about it. I mean, we are not 100% sure, but we do know that most likely they definitely didn't use a purple because purple was expensive, so only the emperor would wear purple.
Right.
As I said on my video, I'll leave a link in the description for those of you who don't know, who haven't seen it. But yeah, white would be rather common, or just the emblem, I would say.
Because I mean,
probably
I really like the red color myself.
Yeah, no, but you can wear it. I mean, some
Yeah.
soldiers did use it, definitely.
It's it feels really Roman to me.
Definitely,
Maybe because I've seen it in several movies
and games.
and games too, right? So
But there is one thing though, there is this painting that I showed on the video where I talk about colors of the Roman army and everything, and there is this painting which shows one centurion wearing a red tunic, so we know that they most likely did. It was a
Right.
painting found in Pompeii, I think, and but two other centurions were wearing white. This is interesting because, you know, it could be just an artistic thing. Maybe it
It
doesn't
could be.
reflect reality, but it could. And if it does, then the message could be some Romans wear red, but most of them wear white. We don't know. We don't know. There
right.
isn't enough information. And I remember that there is one thing that I actually haven't mentioned on that video, where they found this. What is it? It's like similar to a statue, really. And it represents a Roman. They found it in Britannia. If I find it, I'll put it in the links so you can find it for yourself. And they found little traces of pigments, so they could understand what color the statue was
wow,
originally.
that's really
that's
really cool.
And the tunic was grey. So again, another color. You know, something that you wouldn't have imagined.
Maybe like the very fact that they were choosing different colors may depend on the fact that they were like finding different types of like textures and different.
Yeah, but also
types of,
each color has a different price. I mean, back then it's not like you can go to the supermarket and get
right.
you know, some
And nowadays, yeah, you're
nowadays
right.
it's a piece
I
of
know.
cake. But you know, back then it wasn't like that. If you want to get purple, you got to squish like, I don't know, 10,000 shells. So that had an amazing cost. That's why only the emperor could do that. So it depends on the color. There were some versions of red that would be more cheaper than others. For example, blue would be cheap, but indigo would be expensive. It depends on the color. So green was rather common. And that's interesting because if you remember, have you ever read Asterix and Obelix?
Oh yeah, I know a little bit about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Romans are in green there.
That's
They're
right.
all wearing green.
That's right.
They're all wearing green, and it could be because green was cheap. Anyways, so what was I going to say? Careful because this guy driving in Italy. Let me show you.
Yeah, today it's like Saturday night, and Saturday night it's really busy, and we got caught on traffic basically.
Yeah, so stuck in a traffic jam. I think they say in England.
Yeah.
Stuck in a traffic jam. So yeah, that's the idea. So that's for the Armour. What do you think about mail? Is mail comfortable for you?
Well, it is, and it isn't at the same time because it's somewhat heavy to me, and as I said before, I'm not used to it. I'm not trained. I'm not physically trained when it comes to this kind of things. So, but it feels like you are protected. I felt protected.
Yeah.
So that's a really good feeling, you know.
Absolutely.
So you're
And plus, it's also the fact that you can. There is that little trick when you wear a tight belt at your waist.
Yeah.
You know, it sort of
Yeah.
distributes the weight better, and you feel it on your hips, as not entirely on your shoulders. That one helps.
Yeah, that gave me a great relief. Yeah,
It does, and also, I mean, I think it was done by the Romans did it because we know they wore the cingulum militari. It's like their sort of belt, military belt, to distinguish them as soldiers. But the Vikings did it, so it's like an ancient thing. The Celts did it. It's something that I think in the very moment that they made mail, they found that one out.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, you know, because people were. It's not like, you know, doing reenactment. You're freaking working with a thing.
It's like real life.
It's real life.
Yeah.
You gotta go and you gotta find a way to, because so that was one thing. About weapons, you have handled the gladius, you have handled my nodachi, katana, although it's a cheap katana, the one I have, so it doesn't really matter. But you have handled my bokken or bokuto. I think you've tried, and the sword, the European sword that I have, the
it's
shot.
fantastic.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's a really good sword. I think my two best swords are the nodachi and the European sword, the oka shot. And then gladius it's a good gladius.
Well,
what's your favorite?
In my opinion, I reckon my favorite one is the gladius.
Really? You are Roman after all.
Yeah, I am.
Why is that? Why do you like
because it's really come si dice versatile.
You can say.
Oh.
Yeah. I see what you say.
Like easy to handle.
Nimble.
Nimble. It's easy to nimble.
No, it's nimble.
It's
the
nimble.
Adjective, yeah.
Okay, so the gladius is nimble.
Yeah.
It's really. It feels good. It's got like a really nice grip.
Yeah.
To it, so.
And mine is bone, I think.
Yeah,
because
it is.
You had several possibilities.
And so I felt like I had like 100% control of the weapon, and it's really good. I really like the feeling, and it's really. I mean, you can throw slashes like.
Okay, slashes. Yeah.
Yeah, you can slash. You can slash like really quickly, and it's really.
And you can thrust.
Yeah, you can thrust. That's the main thing, as you say. Yeah. So thrusting is.
Although for slashing, an interesting thing is, when we say that the Romans, this is interesting. When we say that the Romans mostly thrusted, they mostly thrust.
Yeah.
That's because that's based on the evidence from Vegetius, Roman writer.
Yeah.
Okay, but Vegetius is a Roman writer who belongs to the 4th century, and he's talking about the late and middle Republic. So he's talking about a time that is past for him. We're talking like 500 years before, 400 years before. So the information he gives, although I'm a big supporter of Vegetius, so I do believe most of the things he gives us are true, but that very information is a little, there is a little bit of ambiguity, because he does say that the Romans are trained to thrust only. This is what he specifies. He's like thrusting, no cutting. But from other writers like Polybius, I think, and Levi maybe talks about this as well. There are other writers that mention cutting, not specifically, like they don't say that Romans also slashed. No, but they don't say that they only thrusted. Vegetius is the only one I'm aware of that mentions that. But they do say that when they went, I think it was during the Dacian Wars, or there was one of the wars that the Romans had, that their opponents were disgusted by the effectiveness of the gladius as a cutting weapon, because they say that through the gladius, the opponents, they would see, for example, limbs cut off and people disemboweled. And these are two things you achieve through cutting, not through thrusting or stabbing.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You don't cut a limb off with a thrust.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's make you think. It's like maybe the Romans did slash after
maybe
all.
like they thrusted like when they were using like a certain strategy.
Yeah, like tight formation.
Yeah. And then eventually in open battle, if somebody was, I don't know, if somebody had to like do something to protect their own lives, I think they wouldn't.
Yeah, also because I think sometimes they didn't always use tight formation. They did, but other times we also have mentions of like more space between one soldier and the other. I think if you calculate that space specifically and precisely, you do see that they would have had space for slashing as well. So I think it depended. It was a choice from a centurion, and who knows, perhaps from a legatus, so basically the general.
Right. Yeah.
We are in Italy, and there is a Ferrari.
It's an old one, but it's still a Ferrari.
The only problem I have with that Ferrari is that it's not mine.
Not yet.
Not yet. I might need to become PewDiePie to get a car like this. What car does PewDiePie have, by the way?
Ciao!
Bella, bella, abbiamo filmata.
È il potere della radio.
Alright, number ones, I hope that you enjoyed this new episode of Street Vlogger, Historical Street Vlogger. This is pretty much what we wanted to share with you today. If you like this series, please remember that I film a new episode of Historical Street Vlogger every Saturday. So now let me leave you with a little bit more footage of my beautiful city, Palermo. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Grazie. Numero 1 nel progetto. Io pure, che foto? Io la foto qui.
Video.
Ok. Ciao.